All right, welcome to the daily market recap for Tuesday, September 9th. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the action today of the indexes, liquid leaders, industry ETFs, then end the video with long and short setups going into tomorrow, like we do with every daily recap. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want my market takes throughout the trading day, along with a live stream at the market open and any trades that I take, you can sign up for the Discord using the link below. Getting into it, Nasdaq, new all-time closing price. Very bullish. A little bit of weakness this morning when the jobs numbers came out and they got revised down. I think it was 911,000 jobs. Obviously, the economy is not doing very well, but the stock market is doing very well because it's continuing to price in more and more rate cuts. So little shake off to the 5-day moving average, bounce there, closed right near the high of the day, and is up after hours. S&P 500, also a new all-time closing high, bounce at the support gap under the 5-day moving average, closed right at the high of the day. It does feel like we're wedging up a little bit, but let's see if we can break out from this range and kind of accelerate to the upside. IWO, these are the growth stocks of the Russell 2000. Nice shakeout to the 10-day moving average, reclaimed the 5-day on a closing basis. We did have a slight gap down. We opened on the high and then closed still in the upper half of the daily range. But the sooner that we can get over that little gap down zone, the better. I still do like the little shakeout to the 10-day that found buying support. ARKK, this was buyable today. We had the gap up yesterday. In the morning, we had a little bit of strength. Then we came in, sold off through the 5-day, the 10-day, into the 20-day moving average, undercut the support gap by just a couple cents, immediately responded to that level. That was a very nice buy point. And then reclaimed those moving averages to close really nicely here. And zooming out, you really couldn't point to a better consolidation after a massive move higher, move from about $40 to 80, so nearly 100% move for ARKK. And like instead of distributing after a move like that and actually correcting through price, we've basically just corrected through time. We did have like a slight pullback from 80 to 70. Would that be 12% pullback? But really, just higher low, higher low, higher low. You've got all the moving averages right on top of each other. And it does seem like momentum has come back into the market with the price action yesterday of growth names, today with growth names. So would not be surprised if this broke out and we had another leg higher here. And then IBIT used to track Bitcoin. Another day of a little bit of weakness, rejected at the 20-day EMA, closed back under the 5-day. Overall, like as long as it holds up over the low that we had on August 29th, where it's just like a breakout retest, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of this uptrend, but it is showing relative weakness. And since that false breakout on August 13th, it's been really choppy and in a short-term downtrend. So kind of two spots to watch. Can we break through these recent highs? We have about a 7-day pivot here. Or do we head back to the lows and then this uptrend is officially done? Getting into the liquid leaders, the best stock today was BE. Nice undercut of the 10-day moving average and support gap. Immediately responded at that level. And this is actually up another 8% after hours into new all-time highs. So BE continues to be, in my mind, the best stock in the market from really 16 up to 60 in just a couple months. Definitely a stock to study and not to chase up here. Google, great follow through today. A little undercut of yesterday's low. Didn't even test the 5-day moving average, but then rallied, closed at the high of the day, and is also up a little bit after hours. APP following through after yesterday's gap up after the S&P 500 inclusion, closed at the high of the day and a new all-time closing high. Not a bearish thing. Robinhood, exactly the same action. A little bit of weakness in the morning, but nothing notable, like still above the 5-day moving average, only down like I think a percent or two at one point in the morning. Eventually rallied at the end of the day to reclaim the closing price from yesterday and put in a new all-time closing high. FUTU, China theme really started to heat up today. We'll take a look at BABA and some other names when we get to the ETFs. But FUTU just kind of chopping. We had a nice 4-day reaction after earnings, a little shake after the 20-day, rallied into new 52-week highs. And from there, we're just consolidating sideways. It doesn't bother me too much that this is consolidating instead of railing while some other Chinese stocks are railing because it really did a lot of the legwork off the low already. If you zoom out, you can see that this is right near all-time highs. All-time highs right at like $200. So a little bit of consolidation, let the 20-day EMA catch up for another higher low touch of that. And I think this is ready to make all-time highs. SoFi continues to just kind of drift higher, closing above that 5-day moving average, but no real momentum to the upside just yet. Not doing anything wrong, obviously. A couple tests of the 20-day of the rising 20-day continues to get supported. Now we're getting some tight price action right at highs. Let's see if momentum can come back to this name and we can break into new highs. CLS had that big gap up on Friday, just consolidating since then, not doing anything wrong, finished the day flat. ALAB, really great action yesterday, up 13%. The fact that it's only down 0.76% today, not doing anything wrong. Nice consolidation day there. And then AVGO, a little bit of weakness, down 2.6% today. Uh, Gapped up on earnings on Friday, sold off. A little bit of strength yesterday, but then we sold off again on the gap up. Maybe need to replace this with some other names, but we'll see how the action comes in tomorrow. But definitely not married to this name. Getting into the industry ETFs, the leading ETF today was MSOS, the cannabis ETF. Nice little higher low setup on the 20-day moving average. Came through yesterday's high. That was buyable. Did squat later in the day. So now watching this at a gap zone retest, the 20-day EMA test at 477 as a potential entry there. BLOK, now really instead of like more, I put this on a list as kind of a way to track the crypto market. Now it's not really responding to the crypto market. It's now more of like a power center or a data center power AI play. And as you can see, nice gap up, strong close. Some of the holdings in BLOK, CIFR, Riot, Wolf, Galaxy, all really good action out of those names today. So an ETF that you should kind of go through and pick out some of your favorites because after some consolidating here, it looks like this is ready to rip into new highs. And then KWEB, the Chinese internet ETF, finally breaking out of a 3.5 year base. Beautiful, beautiful price action. We've been on this for months now. We saw the consolidation here, the breakout retest, island gap back in August. And this move is just getting started. So really excited for my position in CWEB, which is leverage for KWEB, position in FUTU. I have a small position in TME in a different account. And then Alibaba, I got stopped out of earlier. That's acting incredible. We could take a look at that name. Baba, of course, it shakes me out on September 4th and then gap up, gap up, gap up, right into new 52-week highs. Some other names to watch in the China theme are PDD, PONY. You see, I haven't checked out this chart in a little bit. TME, nice consolidation through yesterday's high. That was on the watch list coming into today. And then we'll get to another one in the long setup. NLR, another theme to watch. A really nice 5-week double bottom base where we had our first shakeout, rallied up, a second shakeout that took out the lows of the first one. So anyone who bought the lows, the shakeout here, probably got stopped out. And then immediate response after that level. So gap up, gap up, gap up, rally into new highs, higher low into the 50-day, another high low into the 20-day. And then if you take a look at the stocks in this theme, nuclear and uranium stocks are really starting to break out. I put on OKLO today. That got traction after some morning weakness. LEU, awesome action. UUUU, awesome action. So it seems like this theme is ready for another leg higher. Biotech ETF, just kind of chopping between the resistance gap and the support gap. Another close over the 5-day EMA, not doing anything wrong. Semiconductors, another good day closing into this resistance gap here. Now I'm looking for a higher low pullback into either the 20-day or even the 50-day. It would still be fine. We just need some volatility contraction here. Sure, it can just like rip into new highs, but I would much rather a higher low, get some nice tight price action, and then a more sustainable move higher. XLF, I was getting worried about this as we had a false breakout on Friday, lost the 5, the 10, the 20-day moving average, had some weakness yesterday. Today, a little bit of strength after a gap down, closing back over the 20-day moving average, but definitely don't want to lose the 50-day moving average and support gap on this name. Software, IGV, great action, again, following through to the upside. This was a theme that we were watching for a higher low test of the 50-day moving average. Exactly what we got. Now we're back through that. Seems like a lot of software stocks are back participating in the rally. Gold miners, we're seeing a lot of volume come in here with price not really railing from this point. So at this point, gold miners very extended in the short term. Would not be surprised if we get a pullback to the 10-day moving average after retail finally opens up their eyes and say, hey, wow, gold miners are leading the way. I should start a position here when it's already super extended. That's just a recipe for disaster. Maybe it works for this one trade, but over 100 trades, that will not work. So I'll be watching this for a pullback into the 10-day moving average and gap zone. Even then, it's a little extended, so not in a rush to put on new gold miner positioning. Some weakness in solar stocks. So some rate sensitive themes got hit pretty bad today. And that's a little surprising because you would think with how terrible the job market is right now, we do have CPI inflation numbers coming out on Thursday. But with how weak the job market is, I think CPI can kind of come out whatever it is. And the Fed still needs to lower rates. Otherwise, the economy is going to be, I mean, it's already in a really tough spot. It could be in a really, really tough spot if the Fed doesn't lower rates, given how weak the job market is. It's a tough spot to be in for the Fed because you have really like you have high inflation and increasing inflation. You've got a weak job market and a worsening job market. I guess you have to lower rates and tackle employment first and just hope that inflation doesn't get out of hand. But surprised to see the action out of TAN and ITB, so the solar and home builder ETFs. A little bit of weakness into the 10-day moving average, but still in an uptrend overall. For solar, I'll be watching the 20-day moving average and support gap. ITB, home builders ETF, same thing, 20-day EMA in the gap zone for another higher low in the pullback. It did get quite extended in the short term, so like some pullback here to punish late buyers. Maybe that's all this is, and we can recoup at the 20-day. But just keeping an eye if this is a trend that continues down or if we get just a nice shakeout high or low. Getting into the long setups, we'll go most liquid to least liquid like we do with every video. First up is Tesla. Still not really participating in the rally, not doing anything wrong. Very, very tight price action. You now have the 5, the 10, the 20-day in the right order, all uptrending. Ideally, we get the 50-day moving average over the 200-day soon. But what I'll be watching for here is a pullback into the 20-day moving average and the support gap undercut at 340. I started a position at this at 330.50, right around that area. So that would be a nice ad spot for me where I'm not like totally messing up my cost basis, but can size it up at a very key spot. And if it doesn't hold that, then the market isn't going to be strong enough to get Tesla going, and we'll just take the position off there. But I'm always looking for really tight risk entry points to size up positioning, and that's the spot that I'm watching for in Tesla. Reddit, some good action today after yesterday's reversal. Now we have a gap zone to work with. Just looking for a retest of that gap zone low and the 10-day EMA as a potential entry point. Stop there. It's a little bit too wide to get to the secondary gap here. That's about 4% for me. I would probably just use like a 3% stop. And then if it pulls back even further to this gap zone, the 20-day moving average, that's still a potential spot to watch, but I think the 10-day should probably get supported there. TEM continues to do what it does, punishes anyone who has bought on strength, shook out the 5-day, the 10-day, but we had another strong close and we keep reducing this resistance gap. At some point, we're going to get a move to the upside that just rips higher and we actually get like a very clean move up after the false breakout on Monday and the shakeout today. Now I'm just kind of resetting the pivot that I was working with coming into the week, just at that 181.40 area through the high of August 25th as a potential entry. Stop would be the 5-day moving average because, again, we've seen like if you try to buy this on strength too much, chances are it's not going to work. But the one time that it does work, everyone will have to chase this up and you'll get a pretty sizable move. So I'm okay with buying it on strength as long as you keep a really tight stop. And that's my plan is just using the 5-day moving average as a stop there. NBIS story of the day, up 49%. Sold off all morning, had a nice V recovery from that point, closed well, and this was the highest volume ever on this name. So looking for a little gap up, retest of the high volume close as an entry. It is like pretty extended, and the move that we got was pretty extended. So it wouldn't be the worst thing if this kind of like chopped around for a couple weeks and then got going. But just given the market that we're in, which it feels like we're in a very risk-on market, a little gap up and test of the HVC, keeping my stop really tight is a way to play a high momentum name. RGTI, this was on the watch list through today's high as a potential entry. Personally, I didn't take it. It kind of broke through that entry point later in the day, and I usually only trade the first 90 minutes. Now I'm just looking for a little morning weakness, little shakeout to the pivot here at like 1570 area. And then a reclaim of the daily view app would be the entry. Stop would be whatever the low of the day is, or the 20-day EMA if I can stretch it to that point. Same, very similar setup with IONQ too. DHI, home builder, had a little gap down today, came into the support gap, the 5-day moving average. We're looking for one more day of selling off to get into the gap zone between the 10 and the 20-day moving averages, right at that 172 area. Then we can manage our risk to the 20-day EMA, kind of a breakout retest there. NIO, this is one of the Chinese stocks that I'll be watching for tomorrow. Um, Basically 100% move from 340 up to 680. Then a pullback into the 10-day moving average. Nice inside candle yesterday, a little push higher through the 5 and the 10-day moving averages today. This just looking for morning weakness, then a red to green move as an entry versus the 10-day moving average. PSTG, really like how this is setting up, like had a massive move. So double bottom base, we talked about this yesterday, but double bottom base, consolidation, big move on earnings, up 32%, close at the high of the day. And then really tight price action on any red candle days where we close below the open. And anytime we get a gap down, we open on the low, close on the high, open on the low, close on the high. So this stock is being accumulated anytime there's any weakness. Once we get through that HVC, through that resistance gap, we should have a nice clean move to the upside. So that's the spot I'm looking at, just through the closing price from the earnings day, 80.58 as the entry. Stop would be the 5-day moving average. VSAT probably missed the entry on this. Undercut of the 20-day moving average and support gap. The first test of that is usually a great risk reward spot for high momentum names. Now just looking for a higher low test of that 20-day moving average and support gap, but probably not going to get it. I've got alerts set lower if we do get that pullback, but not holding my breath on that one. METC, this was viable today on the undercut and reclaim of the support gap. Great response right to that level. If we zoom in, like on the 1-minute chart, you could see immediate response after we undercut that. I don't love that, like, we had the first rally. I don't love that we revisited it a couple times, although we didn't take out the low. So now I'm just looking for another test of that area. So not trying to buy this on strength, so trying to buy this on weakness. Little undercut of the support gap is buyable versus the 20-day EMA. REZI, another home builder type stock, consolidation over the 5-day EMA on very light volume, extreme relative strength compared to other home builders. Just looking for a pullback into the low of the gap zone below the 10-day. So again, if home builders can pull back, this would be still a higher low in the structure overall. Then we can manage risk against the 20-day EMA. The fact that this held up so well definitely puts it a little bit higher on my radar than what is it, DHI. Although DHI does do 10 times the liquidity, so you could size that up a little bit better. The next 4 stocks are very much speculative stocks that you could play in a speculative market like we're in right now. First one, AMPX. This was on the watch list coming into the week, just through Friday's high. So we got that on Monday. Nice 8% day. Today, inside candle closing right near the high of the day. Now we just need more momentum through today's high or through yesterday's high as the entry. Stop would be whatever the low of the day is. You don't want to keep it to the 20-day EMA. That's too wide of a stop for me if you're sizing it up at all. But really nice high tide flag here from $2 up to $10, consolidated into the 50-day moving average. And guys, we're in a speculative market. Names like this, they can make some pretty sizable moves. Um, doesn't mean that they have to, and you still have to manage your risk because when they do start to break down, you're going to see all the momentum names start breaking down right at the same time. But until we see that, play the momentum, play the market. CGTX, a biotech. I typically won't trade the or hold biotechs overnight. Some people will, so I'll put it on the watch list here. But nice move from 25 cents up to about $4. Pull back into the 10-day moving average. Now a higher low here, just working through kind of that 260 area as a potential entry. This one, if I would take it, it's more of a day trade, a performance booster, and I would be sizing way down. But it has that pop power, and we're in the right market. WBTN had the highest volume ever on earnings when this was up 81%, closed really well in the daily range. Since that point, we've just kind of drifted lower, tested the 10-day, bounced, undercut the lows of that area, then tested the 20-day yesterday. Now we have a nice pivot to work with, right at $15 as a whole number. A move through that area is viable. Stop would be either the 10-day moving average or the low today. Then LIDR, I did try this yesterday, got going. It was up about, I think it was 14, 15%, then squatted, followed through a little bit to the downside today. Um, well, took out yesterday's low today, then closed well back in the green. Now, just through today's high, through $3 is a potential entry. Stop would be the low of the day. Another name that had a really high volume move up 158%, had two more days following through back to $6, and then has just consolidated since that point. So if you want to say that this is a short and it's showing relative weakness and the momentum is going to dry up in the market, I would say, hey, this is tight enough. Just make sure that you're playing it on weakness and not trying to short a stock that's breaking out of a consolidation like this in the type of market that we're in right now. If you want to play to the short side through today's low, that's a potential short versus today's high. And I would agree that it has been showing relative weakness, but it's more so just consolidating in my eyes. Next to the short setups, I only really found four, and none of them were like super high quality short setups. And this happens you like two different times this happens at the top of the market, which I don't think we are just because of the number of like quality setups that we're seeing. ARKK is a nice quality setup. We're getting the nuclear and uranium themes getting going again. Software, cybersecurity are starting again. So I don't think this is like the top of the market, but I have noticed sometimes when I have only long setups and very, very few short setups to watch, that does kind of mark the top. Otherwise, that's just a high momentum market. And until proven otherwise, that's the market that we're in. First one, MSTR. I do have a short position in this with MSTZ. I shorted it on, what was this, August 12th. It's been a very, very easy trade to manage as it just completely collapsed. Under the 200-day moving average, the 200-day is now floating to the downside. Crypto is acting weak compared to the rest of the market. So it has that tailwind as well. We did have a nice undercut of the support gap, immediately responded to that level, and we had a one-day rally. But then it wasn't included in the S&P 500. We had the gap down yesterday, inside day today, while the rest of the market was really strong. So a couple different ways to play this. On weakness, I would only add to the short on weakness if Bitcoin really starts to accelerate to the downside. Otherwise, if Bitcoin holds up or is strong, a little rally into the 10-day moving average and the gap zone at 336.25-ish area. Would want to see a quick uppercut and fail of that as a potential entry. Stop would be whatever the high of the day is there. JOBY, this is down quite a bit from $21 down to $12. We did find some support at the support gap, little bounce into the resistance gap, and now we're just playing ping pong between those two. Looking for a rally to the top part of the resistance gap at 14.18. potential uppercut and fail. Stop would be above the 20-day EMA on that one. ZEPP continues to chop right at all-time highs, or not, maybe not all-time highs. No, not all-time highs, but highs for the year. Stock that has rallied from $2 up to $50. I really like how this is trading sideways here, because it builds up a lot of traders that are getting in right at this price, both on the long and the short side. So very similar to the LIDR setup. I think you could argue this to the long side and say, hey, this is consolidating just like it did back here into the 10-day moving average through today's high, and this can break out and have another big leg higher. We are in a momentum market. Or we've now made new highs, consolidated for 5 days. Volume has picked up a little bit into this move. So if we get a break under yesterday's low and the 10-day moving average, we've got some people trapped at $46 to $53. And then that'll provide more selling pressure on the way down, like NEGG did. But the thing with NEGG, it was a little bit more extended, went from $3 up to $130. It had multiple days where it pulled back, rallied, pulled back, and then eventually broke down. Um, and it was a little bit more extended in the short term. So I would not be surprised if ZEPP has another leg higher, maybe gets up to the $80 range, and then we can build out a short there. Again, not something that I want to short on strength. I want to short this on weakness only. But through today or through yesterday's low, through the 10-day EMA is a potential short, and then the stop would be whatever the high of the day is. And then SUPX, similar idea, move from 10 up to $70, a lower high, and then followed by a gap down. So trapping traders at these higher prices. Good strength today. So again, you can kind of draw a line and say this is just a bull flag and we're going to break out again. Wouldn't argue with you that we're in the right market for that. But through today's low, and then you have a lot of volume up here, a lot of people trapped at these higher prices, and we should see a pretty quick move to the downside. Again, only short this on weakness. Do not short this on strength unless you get like a clean uppercut and fail of the gap zone at $68. And make sure you're on the side of the daily VWAP. I've seen we've seen so many names like really take off in this market that unless you're getting immediate traction on the short side, do not stick around. Do not tempt fate. We've seen a lot of kind of scammy names make thousands of percent gains in one day. You don't want to blow out your account trying to short momentum names in this market until you see confirmation to the downside. So that's going to be the daily market recap for Tuesday, September 9th. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. And if you want my market takes throughout the trading day, along with the live stream at the market open and any trades that I take, you can sign up for the Market Pulse Discord using the link below. Have a great night, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video.